of a young male student in high school. He is not coming on camera, and we want to try to respect his privacy as much as possible, all right? So the people who will be speaking today are our attorneys, which would be Larry Disparty, also Casper. Casper is C-A-S-S, Casper, C-A-S-P-E-R. And then the sister will also be speaking. We ask that, I know this is a little bit complicated, or a little bit different, but we ask that if you do put them on bottom thirds, or you put them on chyrons, or however old you are, that you just note them as like sister or mother, or I don't think the mom is going to talk, but I think the sister will speak. So we just want to make sure if you guys do that, we don't want to give out names. Names are not in the lawsuit. We're just trying to protect the child here. So I think anyone who's a parent would understand that. So, all right, questions? They'll be up in a few seconds, okay? I do have copies of the lawsuit here. One other thing about the lawsuit is we filed it this morning. We have not received the file stamped copy back yet. We're expecting it any minute, but I did print off copies of the complaint as it was filed this morning. There were copies on the table over there. It says the same thing. It's just extra copies. Any questions for me? Okay. Okay. We believe that to be the case. Correct. We believe that to be the case. That's something that will be discussed more in just more of a lawyer question. Yes, yes. So I don't like answering legal questions like that. I want the attorneys to talk about that. So, okay. Any other questions? No? Good? All right. Here's extra copies. Thank you all for being here.
Good morning. My name is Attorney Larry Disparty. Today we filed a lawsuit against the Chicago Board of Education on behalf of our minor client who was sexually assaulted at a Chicago public school. This young child with autism was in the 10th grade when this assault occurred. What I will say is this child was entrusted to the school by their parents, as every parent does, with the expectation that their child will be safe, supervised, treated with care and dignity. Instead, this child endured a traumatic assault, an assault that was entirely preventable. The school failed to act, and it failed in its fundamental duty to protect the children in its care. The lawsuit we have filed seeks justice not only for the young survivor, but to continue to shine a light on a systemic problem. It puts all of our children at risk. Unfortunately, this is not the first lawsuit we have filed to protect a child who's been sexually assaulted at a Chicago school. We can do better. We need to do better. With that, I'd like to turn it over to the lead attorney, Cass Casper, who will be prosecuting this case.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Larry. My name is Thomas Casper. I'm one of the attorneys who's going to be prosecuting this case on behalf of the family and the young victim who suffered this egregious sexual assault. The assault happened at Sullivan High School on January 30th, 2025. The victim of this assault was subject of an individual education plan, which is a kind of plan that the school district is supposed to develop for students with special needs. One element of that plan, a crucial element for our purposes, was that the victim was supposed to have an adult present with him at all times. Chicago Public Schools failed to abide by that element of his individual education plan. He walked by himself from his homeroom, 10th grade classroom, into a bathroom at Sullivan High School where he was viciously sexually assaulted. We are keeping the further details of that sexual assault out of today's comments. It is outlined in the complaint, and it is an outrage that this was allowed to happen. Crucially, it is our position that the victim should never, ever have been allowed to walk by himself to the bathroom and into the bathroom by himself, allowing this assault to occur. That is one of the fundamental failings of the Chicago Board of Education in this case. As a result of that failing, we have filed a 4-count complaint for negligence in various dimensions by the Chicago Board of Education, by the assistant principal, John Roseboom of Sullivan High School, by the victim's homeroom teacher, Deidre Denaut, and by an yet unidentified adult who we're naming Jane Doe for purposes of the lawsuit. We are alleging that these three individuals in the Chicago Board of Education were negligent in allowing this vicious, brutal assault to happen on this 15-year-old special needs boy. I also want to emphasize this boy is virtually, not completely, virtually nonverbal. His ability to defend himself from a vicious assault like this is sadly non-existent. And it is the school district's failure to provide the full-time supervision called for by his individual education plan that is the upshot of this lawsuit. The family, by bringing this lawsuit, is hopeful that the Chicago Board of Education will do everything as a result of this suit to stop that kind of failing from happening to another student. That is, that any child with special needs, subject of an individual education plan, required to have a full-time aide present with the student at all times, Chicago Board of Education must make changes to require that be followed. It's vital that that happen in order to prevent this kind of brutal sexual assault from happening on any more students. The suit has been filed. We are preserving the anonymity of the family, and to do that, we have to obtain leave of court, which we're in the process of doing, to proceed anonymously. We're in the process of completing that today, this week, and the complaint will be set for a court date in the very near future where we will prosecute it to seek justice for the victim. With that, I have no further comments unless there's any. I know that the sister of the victim would like to make a few comments about what the family hopes to achieve as a result of this suit.
Hello, everyone. My main message is that I want from all of this is for people to be more aware of their children. If they see any type of signs from their children, to be aware of their children and to be sure to advocate for them. They, out of anyone, need a voice to advocate for them. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, if we have nothing further to present at this time, if there are further questions, we're happy to do what we can, although I want to emphasize we are intentionally keeping multiple aspects of this suit confidential to help preserve the anonymity of the family as well as because we don't know everything at this date, and the discovery process, we intend to get to the bottom of everything. So if there's questions, happy to take them with those caveats. Yes?
I haven't fully read through this, but in the beginning it talks about an attempt to suppress reporting of this incident. Can you get into that?
Yes. So this is what we know right now. And again, this is going to be subject to further discovery. There was an adult employee of the school district who was standing or was near the bathroom right after the assault occurred. Our information is that this adult actually went into the bathroom to help clean David up right after the assault, and as part of the conversations, this adult discouraged David from further reporting what had happened to him. Now again, we don't know more than that at this point, but that person we are absolutely going to identify in discovery, and we're going to want to know more from them what exactly happened from their perspective. In addition, on that question, the family was stonewalled at every front in trying to report this. They reported it to the Chicago police, who had one interview with a school, and nothing else has been done from the Chicago police. The family reported this to the school the very next day on January 31st, and were stonewalled at every front. They had to come into the school themselves. They had to demand to see the principal, which they were denied. They were allowed to see Assistant Principal Roseboom, who initially denied to them that anything like this happened in his school, and all he told them was that he would investigate and get to the bottom of it. No further information came to the family from Assistant Principal Roseboom. The principal never even reached out to the family, never talked to the family, and to this day, the family has had no further information from Sullivan High School itself about this incident. Further, on that front, Assistant Principal Roseboom called the family later in the day on January 31st and told them, "We expect to see your son back in school here on Monday." So this horrible sexual assault was reported, and the assistant principal says, "Come on back to the school on Monday," not taking any further means to prevent this or to reassure the family or anything. That is highly inappropriate and another basis for the suit. Other questions?
I do have another.
Yes.
Am I reading correctly that the student accused of the assault is potentially a grandson of the Board of Education?
That is included in the complaint, and and we emphasize in there that's subject to further discovery. The information we have right now, though, from the victim is that we believe that other school employee, Jane Doe, is the grandmother of the perpetrator. But that's subject to further discovery, as we emphasize in the complaint. And if that turns out to be true, that is an alarming fact, and we're going to get to the bottom of it.
And just how does this factor into what you understand is the way CPS deals with these types of situations?
So I think the main concern we have here is, number one, any child who has an individual education plan calling for a full-time adult to be present with them all the time, that needs to be followed. And our information is that the victim was being allowed over the last year or so to go to the bathroom by himself, despite that requirement in the IEP. Why was that allowed to happen? And that needs to be stopped. So I think that's the kind of the main tangible policy change we're hoping to see the Chicago board follow through on, is that if a kid has the adult requirement in their individual education plan, that must be followed. The second thing is, as we've alleged in the complaint, the non-enthusiasm, let's say, of Sullivan High School officials in wanting to investigate this or wanting to help. Why is that culture of reticence by the school officials allowed to exist? This should have been, the family reports it, and everybody at Sullivan High School is on board immediately, insisting we're going to investigate this, we're going to get to the bottom of this, what can we do for you, how can we help for you? That kind of treatment was did not occur here, and that also needs to change. Other questions?
Was there anything else that the family members wanted to share, having heard some of the questions?
Because of the concerns for further privacy, we not at this time. Not at this time. So, all right. Hearing no further questions, thank you all for coming, and we will continue to be in touch as the lawsuit develops. Thank you.
Can I ask you
The young man is still in CPS. He was pulled out of the school by the parents. They didn't want to do this, but they felt they had no choice on January 31st. They stopped sending him to school. They pulled him out of school. He has since early April been placed in another school that is, the placement is completely inadequate to meet his current special needs. So he's back in school as of early April, but it's inadequate to meet his special needs. Right, and there was a brief period where he was performing online work for about 3 weeks as well, but our position is this was wholly inadequate.
All right, and then just finally, how is he doing? What sort of care is he or support has he been receiving since?
So he is seeing a therapist multiple times per week. It was multiple times per week. It's currently 1 time per week. He's seeing a child therapist to help with the emotional distress. The family reports that he's frightened walking down the street, even seeing other people in the street. He's frightened. He'll go behind the family that he's with them. So he's distressed, to say a minimum. He's extremely emotionally distressed as a result of this. And, you know, the goal is that the treatment will help, but it's an ongoing process.
And hearing that, actually, I do have another question. Understanding the importance of routine with children with special needs, maybe who can address how this disruption, in addition to the incident, but how this disruption has impacted his life?
I would say that that's a matter of ongoing care with his therapist. I mean, it has been extremely disruptive. He's been pulled out of school for about 2.5 months as a result of this, which is something that he's never experienced before. It's resulted in loss of educational opportunities for that time, and it has done nothing to provide him reassurance that the school is going to take measures to make sure this never happens again, which is itself a distressing fact that's contributing further to his distress.
Any idea if the accused student was disciplined in any way?
We do not know that, and that's something that the discovery in the case we're going to want to find out a lot more about. But I will tell you is that I asked that same question to the family, and they do not know. The school has not told them. No one from the school has communicated with them about any consequences at all for the perpetrator. We don't know if that student is still at the school. He's another CPS student. And what kind of concerns does that raise for other students potentially being victimized? We don't know, but we're going to get to the bottom of it. Other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
One more quick reminder.